Welcome back to the Sounds of the Baskerville. I'm James. I'm here with the star of the show, Mr. B himself, Chris. How are you, Chris?
G'day, James. Good.
So Chris is a man of many parts. He's a reconstruction expert, insolvency practitioner, trustee in bankruptcy. One thing he's not a jackass or a jackass. You might have seen him on TV. Those guys who ride shopping trolleys down steep hills and set each other on fire. Now, we're not suggesting that anyone attempt any of these things at home. A lot of things that we do, and this podcast one, we're telling you not to attempt at home because we don't want you to fall into some of the same traps. But sometimes you can't protect people from themselves. So this is what we thought we'd do on just the one thing, the jackass. Somebody who's just a doofus. But anyway, let's thought I'd give that one a crack. Chris, it sounds like we've got somebody who springs to mind. So,
it does spring to mind. And obviously, I'm not going to mention any names on this one.
No, well, I think we have to. And obviously, any similarity with real people is
coincidental. And many years ago, I got asked to be an administrator of a fellow that was trying to take advantage of the mining boom, right? So what happened in the mining boom, particularly in regional Queensland and regional Northern Territory, is because there was a lot of construction personnel required to build these mines, obviously demand for everything in those local regions just skyrocketed. Rents go up, food prices go up, fuel goes up, everything goes up, huge demand. And, of course, that's a story within itself, the impact to the regions when it stops. But let's just say this guy's taken advantage of it. So this fellow has gone, well, I've had an inspirational moment. I think if I could put 24-hour gyms in the places where these mining towns are starting to emerge, because that's where the demand for humans are, I'm going to become filthy, stinky rich. So he goes and sets up, I think we had 4 gyms in Queensland, 2 in Northern Territory, and in the regional areas. And he's obviously borrowed money to then buy the franchise rights, and 2, the equipment to put into these 24-hour gyms. And, of course, everything is going swimmingly while the construction phase of this mining boom was on. And then, of course, because of the modern technology that we have these days, James, we can now operate mines with less personnel. So when we go from construction phase to operation phase, the demand on humans drops by potentially 75%.
Yeah, and I mean, there's case studies all across northern Western Australia and central Queensland of thousands of people, massive real estate prices, huge influxes of people to small towns or rural locations. With people always think the good times will last forever, and they always think that the bad times will last forever. So someone had always said things are never as good or as bad as they seem.
Yes.
He's having a crack. It wouldn't be the first person having a crack at riding the mining boom wave.
There are so many stories. So this guy is obviously putting 24-hour gyms in place, but there were property developers now.
Miners, people are active.
Yeah, I'm going to go and level all this dirt in regional places that no one's ever heard of, and I'm gonna sell these home and land packages at crazy prices, like nearly $900 to $1 million to buy land and buildings in these places that I don't even know existed. But hey, this could be your dream, and look, this town's going gangbusters. Don't miss out, James. Otherwise, you're going to miss this boat. And of course, so many people cash out on that. And of course, the whole thing changes as soon as you go from construction phase to operation phase, and you've got a drop of 75% of your personnel. The market disappears, and in some cases, it disappears overnight.
Yeah.
So these people are stuck with huge mortgages in lands that aren't worth anywhere near the mortgages. And, there's a whole calamity there. But also, just going back to our fellow in business, he's now got massive demand drop for his services because effectively a huge chunk of population has now left the region.
Now, even in some of these places, like in northwestern Australia, and I think even in sort of central Queensland, even some real estate people got taken down by this
huge
turn. So this of itself wasn't the reason that this guy was a jackass, though.
Well, this guy, I think, was trying to set up, one of those businesses where, okay, I've got the business in place, I've set it all up to operate without him. And while things are going well, great, that's excellent. But I always believe a true measure of a good business person is not how they handle a business in its upswing. Yeah. It's how you handle a business in its downswing.
Yeah.
Like, what decisions do you make to survive your business through tough times? But anyway, this guy continued on his merry way. I think he took his eye off the ball quite dramatically. There was some questions of the bank where they said, well, hang on, you had a gym in this particular area here. Where's the money from the fire that was allegedly caused up there? Where did all that go? And where's all the equipment? There was question marks as to where did the money go? Where did the equipment go? There was an allegation that potentially a car that was unregistered at a time of an accident was registered after the event, and of course potentially cashing out on that insurance. So these are all sort of things that were happening in this, and this all made the bank start to question what is going on here.
So two words that start with F come to mind here, but this one does sound a bit fraudulent.
Well, look, I'm not going to make any comments on that, James, because that's probably flirting with the line. But yeah, I mean, these are all transactions happening around this time of this fellow being in distress. So obviously, I then get appointed. My job is now to get rid of these trading gyms, and ideally, you want to trade them as a going concern. I was replaced through the administration with a different administrator, mainly because the bank preferred their administrator. And so I took my hands off the wheel, surrendered effectively that file to the incoming administrator, and they effectively sold the gyms as a going concern. Ironically, that administrator sold the gyms to the same person I had found within about, say, 5 business days of my appointment. But that's another story for another day. Yeah. But anyway, fast forward the clock. 3 years from that moment in time, I then end up with those exact same gyms from the guy that bought them off the administrator 3 years ago. So now I'm back in the hot seat. All the landlords are the same. They haven't changed. The staff, some of the staff have changed, obviously, over the years. The landlords are the same. The creditor pool is the same. I'm almost familiar with who the people are that effectively owed the money. And then we worked out that maybe these gyms purchased all those years ago weren't able to maintain the debt burden that was there right from the beginning. So effectively, our guys come in. He's bought the gyms off our fellow previously that was probably doing the wrong thing. But again, this fellow took his eye off the ball, and he's basically let these businesses try and operate without him. And in doing so, we say weren't able to pay their bills on time right from the beginning.
Isn't that trading whilst insolvent, potentially?
It can be, yes.
Yeah. So just so I'm clear, there's a few things that spring to mind here. You've been appointed. Someone comes up on the face of it with a way to purchase the assets. It's not your job to sit there and say, has this person got the money, or is it?
Yeah, that's a good point. I mean, my job really, and any administrator's job, is to properly market an asset, find out who your legitimate buyers are, and then try and assess what they call settlement risk, which is who actually, having accepted their offer, can actually come and pay the money at settlement and complete the transaction. That's something we take an educated guess on. So there was no issues with the acquisition transaction taking place because it had to take place at a certain number on a certain deadline, and that happened.
Great. Okay, so tick that box.
Tick that box. The problem is for this guy now is that I think there were some debts he was incurring in getting ready to acquire those assets, which even today remain unpaid. And then, of course, one thing I should probably add is the global pandemic. It didn't help this guy because every gym basically shut down for about 3 or 4 months. But of course, the gym bounces back pretty quickly. Like, it probably takes 2 or 3 months, and the gym basically is almost at pre-COVID sales levels or pre-COVID income levels. So he's bounced back.
So if you try and restructure, you've got a pretty good story there.
You absolutely
if your
have a good
landlords
story.
are prepared to drink the particular Kool-Aid you've got for sale as the business owner. But perhaps we don't really have the same appetite for drinking this bloke's particular cocktail? Or?
Well, I think this is the crazy irony about this whole pandemic, and with some businesses being dramatically impacted, like personal services, that require a human to sort of give you the service that you need, right? Or gyms and hairdressers and all that sort of stuff. Their income dropped to zero. Right, as soon as the government locks us down. You've still got some fixed overheads that are continuing to accrue, but you've got no income to support it. But then there's heaps of loans and facilities out there, and we're still paying staff and all sorts of stuff. We say that when you were sort of coming out of this period of time, that was probably a good time to restructure your balance sheet.
Yeah.
But of course, not many people took up that opportunity. So again, this is why we say...
And we hit our head against a brick wall collectively
Correct.
as members of Insolve.
Yep.
Do it now.
Do it now. That's right. Take advantage of a couple of things. One, you've still got some stimulus coming in. You've got growing debts on your balance sheet. But critically, what you're taking advantage of is the goodwill of your creditors to go, we sympathise with the position that you're in. It wasn't your fault. The government has effectively shut you down. Now you're starting to re-enliven now. We understand why you're doing a proposal to restructure your debts.
Yeah. You're going to get a hearing. This was a good time to...
It's what I call creditor goodwill. So if you've got creditor goodwill on your side and you've got some means and capacity, you've got a great chance of doing a restructuring. But of course, missed this deadline. I'm ignoring all the advice. No. I think I know better. I've taken my eye off the ball. I'm not going to pay attention to the business. These are the things that then compound and
And to jump in just for a second, so we're not saying that the person in this situation right now with stuff that's bashed around from COVID has missed the boat. We're not saying you're a jackass. There's an old expression, the best time to try to plant a tree was 20 years ago and the second best time is right now.
Correct.
So if you got something to fix, just fix it. Because we're still not out of the woods yet.
No.
And there's still some appetite to get things fixed.
Well, I might drop one of the famous Winston Churchill quotes.
Yeah,
on you
please.
Right now,
we haven't had one for a while. Please.
But Winston Churchill said words to the effect of, because forgive me if I don't nail
That's fine.
verbatim, but when you see danger coming, you must face that danger head on and the danger halves. If you ignore the danger that's coming, the danger will double. And I've taken that philosophy on board. So think about your day when you've got to deal with something that's really tricky. Well, go and meet that thing head on and you'll be surprised that the danger or the fear that you had about that circumstance actually is now resolvable. And I think one of our fellow panelists, which I took a leaf out of her book, she said, a problem shared is a problem halved. So by not facing the danger, you're not sharing the issue that's before you and you're not facing it up. But if you meet it head on, it'll halve. Ignore it and it doubles.
So that maybe then means that the Australian way does risk a thinking, successful business person who has a bit of bad luck or calls a trend the wrong way, cops a GFC, cops the recession we had to have, cops a pandemic like lots of us have done. You're not a jackass if it happens to you, but you can be a jackass if you don't do anything about it.
Yeah, if you don't react properly to it. That's right, yeah.
Now, in this particular case, these particular cats, they're probably more just like the jackass. but without saying anything defamatory, of course, any sort of similarity with people, real or imagined, is purely coincidental. But the point being that...
During this campaign, the second time I've had these gyms and the now dealing with the second owner, right? I was promoting very hard this concept that now's the time. If you've got a proposal, if you want to put a deed together, if you want to try and do a deal with your creditors, now's the time, right? And of course, I was told this whiz-bang story of how he's going to, on a side note or a side hustle, he's putting together some deals which will result in epic commissions coming in. And at the time when those commissions come in, I will then pay creditors. So then I front up to his creditors in a meeting and I said, guys, this is the story I've been told. And of course, every creditor at the meeting said he's been telling that same story for the last 2 years. And I immediately thought, wow, he's just basically tried to pull the wool over my eyes. Thankfully, the creditors were listening and the creditors actually helped me and they said, it's all fake. It's not true.
And people who have listened to these podcasts over this year will know that if you front up to Chris with an open book and a plausible story and a sense and some goodwill, here's where I am, he will treat you fairly and he will always treat you fairly. But if you lie to Chris, you let him down, that can be quite difficult for you in the sense that, it's better to be open and honest up front, because if you hide things, that only gives more cause for people to then go looking for it.
It's a good point, James. I've managed to save companies from liquidation using a deed of company arrangement. I've been able to save human beings from bankruptcy by using a personal insolvency agreement, right? Now, the people that get saved are the ones that come to us waving the white flag, complete transparency, open books and go, here's where I am at, this is why I'm here, and I need your help. Those guys absolutely get where insolvency practitioners are used at their best is to help these people avoid liquidation and bankruptcy. That really is what we should be promoting as a profession. So yes, I'm always...
And that's the stuff you love doing.
I love doing that stuff. Like it really, I take personal joy in being able to get a deed up to save a company or get a PIA up to save a human, because that stuff you remember. That's significant because you've just saved either a family business or a family from financial destruction. But yeah, it's when you come to me and you're trying to omit details, you're trying to be deceptive, you're not giving me the full story, you're giving me things in part, and I'm getting statements from you that are not true. Because believe you me, insolvency practitioners will find the truth. It may take us some time, but we will find the truth. You know, you can't hide from the bank. You know, every one of your transactions goes through a bank somewhere, and we have these wonderful powers to ask the bank for assistance to tell us where did the money go.
So you can't be somebody's friend. You've got to balance the needs of all stakeholders. But honesty is always the best policy, and being transparent is always a prudent way to manage these scenarios.
Well, I might just add one more element to this. This is the people that get the help that succeed in getting compromises up. They come to see the insolvency practitioner early. So in other words, they've just realised their business has taken a turn for the worst. Their personal lives have taken a turn for the worst. They don't bury their head in the sand. They do the Winston Churchill thing. They front up to the problem and they say, look, our business has just turned and we can't see a way out.
Yep.
They meet the danger early.
Yeah, great. Appreciate it, Chris. So don't be a jackass. Get on the front foot. Speak to the man. Thanks, Chris.
Thanks,
Appreciate
James.
it. See ya. A reminder that these podcasts are general in nature and do not constitute advice, and they don't take into account your personal circumstances. So if you think, though, that some of the issues raised might apply to you, you should seek qualified financial, legal or counselling advice.